Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a kind of cold and cloudy Wednesday afternoon here in Madison. And apparently they're testing out the sirens. I don't know if you can hear that in in the background. Either that or we're under attack by Iowa. I'm not sure which. Um, hey, welcome to WASBO's quarterly transportation tidbits. Our series that covers all things related to student transportation. Do you hear that? I can hear it really loudly.
I
It's
can too.
yeah, it must be the noon Wednesday tornado sirens going off. Great planning by your crack WASBO team yet again. That's okay. We still managed to get our point across. I'm Mike Berry, Executive Director, and I'm joined first by Ryan Savola. Ryan's our communications and marketing guru, and Ryan's sort of pinch hitting today for Caitlin Peters. Welcome, Ryan. And Ryan's going to be coordinating this and maybe keeping an eye on the chat
Yep.
for us as well. Um, just to get us started, I just want to comment that most school business officials or whatever that lead accounting position is called in your school district has a incredibly wide portfolio, I think they call it, of responsibilities. This is a big old job description, to put it more simply. I mean, everyone has the accounting piece, which includes budgeting, which includes capital planning, which will become relevant in this discussion.
Hmm.
Um, but you've also got food service and buildings and grounds and risk management, and sometimes you've got technology. Some have got HR responsibilities, and in there somewhere is transportation. It's nice to have this concentrated time where we just talk about transportation. I think it's super helpful because otherwise we just can't do it justice. Um, okay, today we are joined by Ben Behlke. Ben is from Renew, Wisconsin. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here and talking about clean school bus funding.
So, where are you located?
Yeah, I'm actually at my house in Rui, Wisconsin, which if you don't know where that is, I don't blame you. It's like a town of 200, but if you know where Platteville, Wisconsin is, it's about 10 minutes north of that. Our home office is in Madison, but today, because of the webinar, working from home, try to control the sound the best I can. Um, so yeah, super excited to be on here and talking to you all about clean school bus funding.
Well, how'd you get into this? How'd you get into Renew Wisconsin, and what is Renew Wisconsin all about?
Yeah, totally. So I got into Renew Wisconsin. I actually started out as an intern. I went to the University of Wisconsin Platteville and studied sustainability and renewable energy systems. And in there, we were doing a lot of large scale wind and solar, learned about EVs, batteries, heat pumps, all the different technology. And I actually interned with Jim Boolean at the time at Renew, and he did uh, government affairs work. So that's where I kind of learned this intersection of like clean technology and then the ways to implement it, right? I am sure everybody on here on the webinar knows, you have all this new technology that comes up, but there's this whole hurdle that has to be achieved in order to implement it, which is a lot of the policy and a lot of the programming and capital expenses and things like that, a lot of what you mentioned. And I found a unique interest in that. And hopefully, in a position like this as clean technology manager, Renew has had a long track record of helping schools with clean school bus funding and hoping to continue that through my role.
Well, that's great. I feel some empathy for all the business managers and budget balancers out there. And you've got this sort of dual role in school districts. I think this kind of makes school districts
Mhm.
a little bit unique in that, on the one hand, you want to demonstrate good sort of corporate or organizational citizenship,
Right.
especially because you've got kids, you're kind of teaching them about the world of tomorrow and being responsible, users of our planet. So you've got all that, but at the same time, we squeeze every penny so hard,
Right.
and a
Absolutely.
lot of discretionary money. So when opportunities like this come up, I think folks are always interested. But it's also a lot of work. So
Absolutely.
I'm really hoping you can kind of take this opportunity to guide us through the program and where the opportunities lie,
Yeah.
and um, and we'll monitor the chat and we'll let you have at it. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you, Ben. I'm going to turn my microphone off and listen.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so thank you everybody for being here. I know you all have busy schedules being at a school district, and I really want to make sure that we're using this time as good as we can, and I'm just happy to be here and talking to you all about this. So this is Clean School Bus Funding from the application to the implementation. Mainly talking about the Clean School Bus program and kind of how you go from the start to the end. So what is Renew Wisconsin? So Renew Wisconsin is a nonprofit organization. We are based in Madison. We were founded in Madison. And what we want to do is push for a stronger, healthier, more vibrant Wisconsin through advancement of renewable energy. We look and help at policies and programs, whether that's policies dealing with policymakers at Madison, or whether that's policies and programs at like the Public Service Commission when it comes to rate cases and programming around electric vehicles and fleets and things like that. We look at a wide range of topics and issues, and all with the goal of helping Wisconsin, whether it be economically or environmentally, helping them along the path towards this. So as you see, we do work in solar, wind, biogas, hydropower, geothermal energy, and electric vehicles. In my specific role, I look at electric vehicles in building electrification. And kind of want to scope this in about kind of why we're having this conversation about buses and healthy transportation. One of them is one that we've probably heard over and over again, which is the reduction of air pollution. But that's definitely true when you're talking about buses. Buses primarily use diesel fuel, right? That's how the buses have been getting around for as long as we have. And with that, with diesel fuel comes the particulate matter and nitrous oxide. Both these can cause respiratory illnesses, cardiovascular disease, especially in that smaller particulate matter. That's actually stuff that gets inhaled into the lungs, can cause asthma, can cross over into the bloodstream. All these things are linked with increased air pollution, as well with helping to reduce emergency room visits if we start to move to cleaner air for students and for children. Fewer sick days, that's a really important thing, especially when you're talking about schools, right? My fiance and my brother actually are both teachers. My brother teaches at South Wayne, yeah, at Blackhawk, and my fiance teaches in Sholesburg, Wisconsin. And I know right now, especially, there's a lot of sick days that are going on, and any way that we can limit that, especially from the preventable side, is also really important, especially for school districts. And then lower healthcare costs in general. And again, why are we specifically talking about school buses? Well, school buses travel over 3 billion miles annually. That's about 25 million children being shuttled to school from their homes or vice versa. And most all of them use diesel fuel, especially the older ones. Diesel fuel creates tailpipe emission, which causes a range of healthcare issues, which we mentioned. Children are more vulnerable to these issues than adults are, as well as the air inside the school bus has actually been found to be more polluting than the air outside of the school bus. And us at Renew, we think we have a solution, or we think there's a great solution out there, which is electric buses. Electric buses have zero tailpipe emissions, which help with the localized air pollution, help with obviously there'll be no pollution from the tailpipe emissions because there are none going into the bus, as well as buses in general cost 60% less to operate and maintain, which I know, again, talking about school districts, I think Mike mentioned it early on. Every school district right now, pinching pennies. A lot of them are looking at going to referendums. And I understand that it's an important time to look at how we are funding our schools in different ways. And one of those ways that I think would be really great to help school districts is in that operations and maintenance side. And any way we can help with that limiting the amount of overhead in those areas, I think is so, so important for us. Um, so again, 60% of less operation and maintenance come from electric buses. This is because you don't have the traditional internal combustion engine, right? The only things you're going to have to change are the tires, and brakes and those types of things, as opposed to having to deal with spark plugs and those other things you might have to deal with a diesel bus. And that brings into the bipartisan infrastructure law, or the Clean School Bus Program. And this was a program that was through the bipartisan infrastructure law. So not IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, which has been in the news lately. This is in a completely different law. And because of that, the idea of this was to take existing school buses that are at school districts and give them a way to have funding to offload those older buses and bring in new clean school buses. It's the idea is to fund them, get them into school districts and high priority school districts as well. So we're going to start looking at the application process. What does that look like? First off, these are the group of people who are eligible applicants. It can be school districts, governments who service the school districts, nonprofit school transportation associations, Indian tribes, reservations, and as well as eligible contractors. So if you work for a school, you can apply. If you do bus contracting, your contractor can apply for it. There's different ways to access the funding that is available. So again, all these participants, they are all eligible to submit a rebate into this program. And that's exactly what this program is. So the Clean School Bus Rebate for this year, for this time around, is all rebate. They used to have a earlier grant round and then a later rebate round. And what they decided for this year and what they heard from a lot of their schools who applied for this is that many of the schools liked the rebate over the grant. Obviously, the schools that we're trying to target are ones that are in rural areas who have limited staff, limited time. And because of that, the rebate, which is an easier application, takes less time to do, is the way that they went. So all the funding now for this round is going into the rebate, which we've had conversations with the EPA in our information back and forth, hearing that there's a good chance that as long as you apply, there's a good chance that a lot of school districts in Wisconsin and in Region 5 are going to end up successfully getting approved in this rebate round. So the applications, they are due by January 9th. It's closing up. I know it's really, really close. I just want you to know that Renew Wisconsin is here. We're here to help you through this process. We are funded by an EPA grant to do some of this outreach and some of this work. So if you are having struggles, or if you have some more specific questions that come up, please do not hesitate to reach out. My information is at the end of this presentation, as well as I'm sure if you reach out to the great people at WASBO, they can get you in contact with me as well. I really, really want to do our best to help you through this process. And basically what happens is if you submit into this rebate round, you'll be entered into a lottery, which is a random number generator. Prioritized school districts will be a higher priority. That is like low income areas, rural school districts, tribal districts. There are 91 priority school districts in Wisconsin. You can look up what school districts fall into that. And if you want that more information on that, again, feel free to reach out. I do have those school districts on hand. And then for the awards, you can be awarded up to $325,000 per bus, up to 50 buses. That's an increase from 25 last rebate round. The reason for this is they're starting to look at trying to help either the bus contractors that have a lot of buses that service a lot of schools, trying to get them to be involved within this so that more schools can have access to electric school buses. And then as well as it's 30,000 to 45,000 for propane and natural gas buses. So a little bit less on that end for those. And I did put on the screen here for the awardees from last time, so this most recent time. And you'll see a lot of them have done ones, asked for one school bus, a few have asked for two, some have asked all the way up to 25 school buses. So the great thing about it is you can apply for, or you can request as many buses as count within the rebate as you can get, but you don't need to take them all, right? We always hear from the EPA that it's better to try to get as many as you can. And then if you only go through with one or if you only go through with two, that's totally fine. It's just whenever you submit that rebate, that's the number of buses you're locked into at that time of submitting it. So just keep that in mind as you're going through this. That it is, again, however many you submit at that time is what you're going to be locked into if you do end up winning the award. And here's a better visualization of the scheduling that is available for it. So it's up to $325,000 if you're in a priority school district. If you're in a non-priority school district, it's $170,000. And what I would say is, I know that when this comes up, school districts might be curious about if that funding is enough, or hey, it might only cover the bus. And while that can be true, and while that is true, these are the times when it is the cheapest to get into this as you can, right? Once this funding is gone, once this funding is done within 2 years, the buses are going to go to their natural prices that they are. And then because of that, you're going to have to pay for the bus, charging infrastructure, everything at face value. But getting in right now, very similar to with different programs, being able to get in now, you can help supplement a lot of the funding of those buses early on right now with some of this funding. So keep that in mind. Again, this is the schedule that you can see that is available. So $325,000 if you're in a prioritized school district, or $170,000 if you're in a non-priority school district. And then talking about what buses count for the school bus, the clean school bus rebate. So a make year or older diesel buses of 2010, those are the ones that that are planning on being scrapped first. So those would be the ones that are the oldest in your fleet. Those are the ones that are first in line to be sent out of production. So again, a beautiful thing about this is these are buses that are already older, maybe near the end of their lifetime. Replacing that with a new bus that is supplemented by funding, that's always beneficial. It's a nice opportunity there. So again, a really great option, and that's one thing that's the first on the list to be taken off. After that, then scrap year of any buses that are older than 2010, and they request a zero emissions bus, they can scrap a 2010 in newer non-diesel internal combustion engines, or scrap, sell, and donate 2011 in newer diesel buses. And the nice thing about this is if you do choose to sell it, we've heard from the EPA that money does go back to the school district. So if you do have buses that are newer than 2011 and you decide to sell it, those do go back to the school districts, that funding does. It has to have a gross vehicle weight of 1,000 pounds and higher. It has to be operational at the time of application. So again, the idea with this is to replace existing buses that are on the road. So replacing them with a bus that is currently active, that's the name of the game. That's what they're going for, and have to provide at least 3 days a week or average of travel time for schools and taking kids to and from their house to the school. So these are all the things to keep in mind when it comes to what buses in your fleet make the most sense to transition over. And again, here's might be a little bit clearer picture of what is allowed through the scheduling, which is, again, if you're looking at propane, natural gas, those are only with the older diesel buses. But if you go to battery electric vehicle, so electric bus, those are all the things that are allowed. Gas powered propane bus, natural gas bus, 2011 and newer buses, if you do not have any older than 2010 buses in your fleet. So keep all that in mind. Those are the buses that are being targeted or that are first to be scheduled out through this replacement program. And then what is all covered with the funding? So there's two different sides of this. There is the behind the meter and there's in front of the meter. So the in front of the meter is usually what your utility is in charge of. So that's the transformer, that's the utility lines running into your facility. That's whether it's phase one, phase three, different types of energy that are needed for these technologies. that is all stuff that would not be covered by this expense. So that's where you'd have to work with your utility to see if you do have the right electrical infrastructure to take that on, and what the costs would be to change that electrical infrastructure if needed, right? Some don't. Some are already set to go with electric. Some need to have a transformer upgrade. And a lot of utilities are working with school districts right now to help in making that cheaper, and working with them. We know Alliant is, we know Excel is. We've heard a few municipalities working with school districts to help get the costs of those um, non-covered expenses covered. And then the eligible expenses, these are everything that is in front of the meter. So that's your actual electrical meter, that's your electrical panel, your charging stations, your electric bus, anything that comes after the transformer, that's pretty much what is covered by the electric school bus funding. And then what do you need to submit through this process? So you need to know your applicant type. So that would be if you're a tribal organization, if you're a school district, if you're somebody who's filing in with that school district, that's what it means by applicant type. Then you need to know your school district information, like address, some of your SAMS information, sam.gov information, and then information on your existing buses. That'd be the VIN number, manufacturer, the owner, the odometer, things like that that you might need. Scan of the bus title. And then information on the type of bus that you want. So, for example, if you're going with electric bus, you need to know that you're wanting an electric bus that replaces a Class 7 bus, and then the fuel type, which would be electric if you choose to go that route, and then just the business contacts for you. So if you're somebody in this meeting, or if you are a bus contractor, those are kind of the contacts that you need. So these are the things that you need to submit. And then there's supplemental forms that are new from the last 2 years. And the reason for these is because in previous years, they just had it so that the school district or whoever it may be can just submit it. And what came up is when those school districts ended up winning or being awarded money, is that the school boards didn't know about this project, or the utilities didn't know about this project. And that caused a lot of projects to not go through the process when it's all said and done, right? There's still an option at the end to say, yeah, we don't want to go through with it. And a lot of those school districts did that because they just were not prepared. So because of that, the EPA implemented these three other paperworks that they are not binding by any means, but it's just more so to make sure that there's awareness with the correct parties. So the school district, the school board has to know, basically, this is just an awareness certification. The reason for this is when it's all said and done, more than likely the school board will be the one to have to approve the project to go through. But this is not binding. This is not saying the school district needs to approve it. This is not saying that the project is going to go through no matter what. This is just saying that the school board knows that this is something that the school district is thinking about. Then there's the school district approval certification. This is if you are covered by a contractor or somebody who is not within the school district itself. This is so that they can make sure that the school district that they are supplying the bus to knows that this is a process that's going down. So if you're somebody on this webinar and you are already a part of the school district and you would be the one who's applying for that, that's not a certification need. But if your bus is underneath a bus contract, or you go through a contractor or somebody who's outside of your school district, they would need to have that approval, that certification. And then the last one is the utility partnership agreement. And this is just, again, this is not the utility saying that they're going to be approved, or that there's any form of partnership that necessarily needs to happen. This is more so just saying that they know that this is something that is in the works and could be happening in the future, type of thing. So it's more or less to start these conversations early, which is the usage of this. And what I would say too is if you are working with a bus contractor like Lion C, or you work with Bluebird or some of those bus contractors, their teams already have a division dedicated to working on projects like this. So they already have people at their disposal to help you through this process. They more or less, it'd be like, hey, Lion C, or hey, Bluebird, we're thinking about going with electric school buses. You contact those people, they get you in contact with theirs. And then they would help you through the certification process as well. So that's another thing to look forward to. Again, I know as school districts, time is money and time is limited in a lot of these areas. So any way that either Renew can help or any way that you can look towards Bluebird or Lion C to help, they're going to be there. They're going to want to help you through this process. So those are some of the supplemental forms. So again, for the application process, you would need to have a bus that is older, decide to phase that bus out, and then get those approvals done. The actual rebate process is about 2 pages long. That's how long it is. It's a lot shorter. A lot of school districts like it. We've had a lot of rural school districts and small school districts go through that process, as you saw with the maps. So the good thing about getting in at this point in the game is that you're not alone. There's already been people who've gone through this process in the state of Wisconsin who've already implemented buses in different parts of the state, who can help you along as well. So that's an important thing to remember. And then what happens next steps? What do you do after this? There's a few things that you should consider when it comes to an electric bus. And one of them is the type of charging. There are three current types of charging within electric vehicle space. There's level 1, which is your standard household plug-in. Then there's level 2 and level 3. Most common when you're talking about electric buses. Level 2 is a little bit slower, but it's perfect for some of those routes that might be within town or your shorter routes that you can cover, and where it charges overnight. And the bus itself has enough charge for about 2 trips back and forth. Those are really good. They're going to be cheaper to install. They're going to be cheaper to cover. It's not going to use as much electricity, and as well as you might be able to miss out, or more than likely, going to miss out on demand charges. And that's one thing I really want to make sure that I hone in, is that I want to make sure that school districts know that if they go through this process and they do like a level 3, there's a high chance that you might be susceptible to demand charges, especially if you're charging that vehicle during the day. So please keep that in mind. We've told school districts that if you think that you can, that with your route, you can get a level 2 charger, that's the best route to go. Then there's the level 3, which I already mentioned. These are the faster chargers. These are the ones that cost more, but again, you can get those quick charges in at a moment's notice. So again, these are the different charging scales that you need to keep in mind. Again, we've been telling school districts, try to look at level 2 first before you look at level 3, just because of the expense differences and things like that. So important dates to remember. So the application deadline is January 9th at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So that's 3 p.m. here in Central time. Then you'll get notified on your award selection in spring. The selectees will then have to submit their purchase order, or they're basically saying that, yep, they are going to go through with this by November of next year. They haven't submitted those dates yet, but just so you know, that's around when they always do it, is around November is when you need to start submitting those. And then you have about 2 years to have the project fully implemented and you using the bus as your normal bus route. And then within those 2 years is when you would need to have your diesel bus scrapped or your diesel bus sold and donated, depending on the year of the bus. So the nice thing about this is if you do get awarded the electric school bus, you don't need to immediately get rid of your diesel bus. You can still keep it on hand for 2 years to see if the bus is the right choice for you guys as a school district. So you can keep it on hand. It's just after those 2 years, you would have to then get rid of that bus in the correct way. And then other things to prepare for the 2025 funding. Make sure you're talking to your transportation contractors, whether that's an actual contractor themselves that you work with, or whether that is Bluebird or Lion C. Make sure you start those conversations early. The best projects and the projects that seed the best in the state are the ones where they started those early. They started communicating with the school district. They started communicating with the community and get a lot of that support early on. Talk to your electric utilities. Again, if you don't have those contacts, or if you need to have one-on-ones or need support in that, please let us know at Renew. We do also have a lot of the utility contacts, um, especially with the electrification managers, to help you along in this process. I know that might be one where it might take some time to see what makes the most sense for you and your school district. But again, a lot of these utilities, they've gone through the process already, and they know kind of what makes the most sense, and they can give you a very specific for your school district application when it comes to the electrical side of the electric school buses. Additionally, partner with other school districts. If there's other school districts who are either working with a similar bus contractor or as well as have implemented electric school buses before, this is a great time to start working with those school districts. We have a lot of contacts, whether it be with Wild Rose, who's implemented a Bluebird bus. They're in a rural area. They get a lot of snow up there. They've done a great job implementing that. There's Mondovi School District over in the Driftless area. They have Hills. They're also in a rural area. They've implemented 2 electric buses into their route, and they have great tips. Palmyra is another one that has implemented school buses. So again, the good part about this and getting involved now is that you're not alone. There are other school districts who have been going through this process, and they're involved in it. So please reach out to them or have us help reach out to those school districts. More than happy to make those connections. And then additionally, educate the community about the electric buses. Let them know the financial benefits. Let them know the benefits to the students. Let them know why you're making this step. That's really important to get full community buy-in into these projects. And then explore additional funding opportunities. And I'll have a few after this about some of those, the taxes that are available. There's 2 tax credits that are primarily available. And then again, contact Renew, ask us for help. We do also have this calculator that was developed for us. And again, free of use. The one thing that we do ask for is just to have a one-on-one meeting with that, or at least with people who would be using it. The reason for it is the calculator, you kind of need a little bit of a quick education of it. But basically what it does is it will select the specific bus, or you can try out different buses. You can implement how much your electricity costs are, how much your demand charges are, how long your routes are. You can see kind of what bus makes the most sense for you in your school district, as well as seeing what charging makes the most sense. For example, if you were to put a level 3 in there and you picked one of the higher chargers, you can see how much your demand charge would be to see if that makes sense for your school district or not. If it makes sense to do day charging, how many trips you can do in these buses. So it's a really, really, really helpful calculator. We've been really successful working with a few school districts in them using it, and I want to make sure that I offer that to every school district who's interested in it. Please just ask us. More than happy to reach out and help the best that we can. And then for the additional funding opportunities, there are 2 different funding opportunities that are available. There's 45W tax credit. This is a commercial clean vehicle tax credit, and this is available to anybody. As long as you were to get the electric school bus, then the $40,000 would be going to you. So that's included into the 325 or 170 points for the electric buses. So keep that in mind. You would have an extra 40,000 there for the tax credit. And yes, school districts are eligible for this credit as well. And then 30C tax credit. This is dependent on where you are located. Most priority school districts, actually, I think all priority school districts are within the 30C tax credit funding area, which would be $100,000 for the charging infrastructure. Again, there's a map available after this webinar. I know he's going to slides are going to be sent out to you. Within this, there's a link here. You can see where that is, where your school district is if you are within that 30C tax credit. But I do know that infrastructure is an important part of this. That's an important amount of funding that needs to get figured out. And this is something that EPA themselves is even saying that a lot of school districts have taken advantage of. So please keep that in mind. And then I just want to do a quick overview because I know that a lot of people are interested in what happens when I do get the bus, right? I get the bus, it's implemented, we went through the process. Okay, where do I charge it? And one thing that's been happening, positively been happening, is that because of NEVI, so there's the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program. And this is a program also through the bipartisan infrastructure law, and it's to implement chargers across the United States, 50,000 chargers by 2030, all in level 3 fast charging. Each location is going to have four 150 kilowatt DC fast chargers in these locations. They are going to be available for anybody to use. In Wisconsin themselves, this is already round one. This is already projects that are being funded, already in development, already being built. We have 53 locations in Wisconsin that are going to be having these DC3 fast chargers. It's all across the state. In this next slide, I do have the map. There is a lot of interest in it. We're already in round 1.5, which is now just started to get kicked off. So there's going to be a lot more DC3 fast chargers. And I know that's one thing when I went to different school districts, they were talking about how they can only use that bus within their school district. And while that is true for now, I think that this is an area that is going to be increasing of places where if you did have to take the electric bus over a long distance, you can take it there. And just have more applications with it as well. Here's the map of those chargers. As you can see, it is spread across the state. This is only round one of 5 rounds that are coming down. So there's going to be a lot more of these DC3 fast chargers, but it's really great to see round one in a lot of different locations, the usual routes of travel that people are taking. And yeah, so it's great to see that. And it's important to know if you are looking at funding in 2025 funding, these are a few things you need to keep in mind. You need to verify your organization has an active SAMS.gov funding. Talk to all parties involved. Talk to the superintendent. Talk to the transportation director. Talk to the school board. Talk to the utility provider. The more people who are involved in this process, the easier it's going to end up being for you and helping it down the line. And then you have to submit your application, your online application, by January 9th at 4 p.m. Central Time. So I don't know why they picked that time, but that's the time that they did pick. It's a little bit earlier than it has been in the past. Again, I know it's crunch time on this, but please feel free to reach out to us with any questions you might have. I want to help as many school districts as we can, and then sign up for the EPA Clean School Bus Program listserv that the EPA provides. And yes, just thank you so much for having me. I know it's a lot of information in a shorter period of time. But again, I really want to help you all the best that I can through this process. Feel free to reach out. More than happy to get involved anywhere where you see necessary. And I'm happy to open it up to a Q&A and answer questions as they come in.
Yes, we did get a few questions throughout the webinar. Some have been answered, but I think that there was some concern about getting approval from the board and the utilities for this year. Do you have the dates for next year yet?
We do not have the dates for next year just yet. It is more than likely going to be in the fall, same time like in November. I know it again, it is crunch time right now when it comes to this. But I do know that some school districts have been able to do it within the last month before the project has been due. I know with it being soon to be winter break, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But yeah, we don't know just yet for next year what those dates would be, but more than likely it would be in November.
Awesome. And we have a little bit more of a specific question. Does the $325,000 max per bus include the bus and all infrastructure costs?
That's a great question. So the $325,000 right now, the bus itself is more than likely going to be around that price, right? So more than likely that $325,000 will be enough to pay for the bus. The infrastructure, on the other hand, not so much. And that's one thing that I also want to make sure that school districts know before they apply for this, is that It's a lot of money, and it's certainly going to be cheaper now than it would be if you had to do it the bus and the infrastructure. But also know that there will be some expenses outside of that that you would have to cover as the school district. Again, I know Mondovi and Wild Rose, they figured out ways around it to make that cheaper. And it's still, like they said, in the long run, was cheaper than a brand new bus they would have had to replace anyway. But again, it is not necessarily like this is going to completely cover the bus and the infrastructure, right? It's mainly going to cover the bus, and then the infrastructure is going to be a part of that as well.
Awesome, awesome. And we had another question about weight limits. Will they fall weight limits in the spring on many roads in rural part of the state, I believe. Will electric buses fall into these limits?
They do not. No. For most of them. I mean, it probably depends on your specific area and what your specific bridge limits or your road limits are. But at least in the school districts that we've talked to, they have not had issues with road weight limits in the areas that they go. Um, so yeah, that's a great question, but I have not heard of that being an issue just yet with the school districts who have implemented them.
Awesome, awesome. I think that covers all of our questions, but I'm gonna pause for 1 second. If anyone has any other burning questions, now's your chance. Anyone? Okay. Well, then I think we'll wrap it up here. Thank you so much, Ben. We really
Yeah.
appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, thank you so much. And again, I know I've said it multiple times. Please feel free to reach out to us. Um, I would really love to help as many school districts. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. The more people who ask, the more support we can give. So
Yeah, and we did, of course, get a last minute question, which is great. Ben, what do you ballpark estimate for infrastructure costs for 572 PAX buses? I hope you know what that means.
I don't know about the specific buses for sure, but again, it depends. And I would love to give you an estimate, but it really does depend on your electrical service. I've seen some where it is as low as $7,000. I've seen some where they had to put in $25,000 of work. Um, and some I'm sure have gone more than that. I've seen some that go less than that. So it is definitely a range, in a range based on what your current electrical capabilities are. But what I would also say is a lot of school districts have taken the opportunity now of they have this funding available and say that they win it. I know Wild Rose has done this and a few others have. They actually upgrade their full bus barn to take on additional electrical chargers because they got the funding to, so it is cheaper now to do it type of thing. And to do it all at once as opposed to waiting to do each individual one. So that is also another thing to consider that if you're already going through this upgrade process, um, the reason why some of them, as you hear them, like, oh yeah, ours was a lot of money, ours was less. It's because some people did decide to upgrade their full bus barn to take on more buses for the future as well.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for joining us, and all of you for joining us for the webinar. I did put the webinar evaluation link in the chat, so if you could take a few minutes just to so that we can get other fun topics in future webinars. Our next transportation tidbits webinar will be on February 12th. But other than that, we will let you guys get back to your day. And thanks again, Ben.
Great, thank you so much.
Thanks. Well, I'll have the recording and the PDF up later today, everyone, for anyone that's curious. And yeah, and the handouts as well. But yes, awesome. Thanks.
Great, thank you.